Until Dawn 2024. It's a good game. I already did a video of the last gen version for the PS4, but I was debating on... I was gonna play this, obviously, but making a video on it, I don't know. It's like I already covered Until Dawn, but this isn't really a remaster or a remake, technically. Because then it would have been a little more obvious, like... I don't know, I guess in the game description it's considered a rebuild. It definitely has that remake quality, like when you think of Resident Evil and stuff, but... Because it looks very different, it obviously looks better. But yeah, it's the same game again. Whatever little differences they made between the two, like, other than visually or something, I don't know. It's been just long enough since I played the last one to kind of compare them. It's not as clear as a night and day difference between like RE4 and RE4 Remake, for example. So, because like obviously there's very significant changes there, and Resident Evil 4's OG is a very much older game, PS2. Like Until Dawn isn't even that old, like in my mind. It still holds up very well, it still looks good, it's as good as it's gonna get. When I first saw some of this game, I was skeptical because I was like, the lighting looks weird. It's a little more brighter and like Michael Bay, God rays. And that worried me because the last gen version was so dark and gritty and grim and raw, and that was the whole point, the fact that it was dark even in the daytime. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just nostalgia or first impressions, or... But I probably prefer the older one. And this was almost like a full price game too. Which was worth it because it does feel like and look like a whole different game, and you have the haptic feedback and the controllers, and like it's a Sony game, you know you're gonna get a good game out of it, but I don't know, it felt like the mobility was worse, the camera angles, like that's just how these games are. But in this game, I don't know, that's the thing with like whatever changes they might have made, like, oh, we'll change this to make it easier, and when they start touching things, that's not good because there's those can be small things that make things worse. I mean, if they're trying to market it off like, hey, this looks better, blah blah blah, more updated modern version, just do that. Don't touch anything. Just upscale it, do whatever you gotta do. I don't know. But I would have had to literally replay the other game just so I just didn't want to bother, but since it hasn't been that long since I played it last, it's not even a matter of like, oh, I just forgot or something. It just instinctually doesn't. The last game just kind of, like some small examples, like when I'm facing something, I'm finding a totem. That's another thing, the totems are weird. I don't remember it being that weird before, that touchy or sensitive. Just have me still face that way. Like if I'm looking around for notes and stuff to pick up, collectibles, clues, let me do that. But it like, you face away once you interact with something, and then you're facing the entirely other way, assuming like they helped you out by, you know, oh, clearly you're gonna turn around and like go that way anyway. Well, let me do that. And the frustrating thing about these games is, and I only play these because it's like watching a movie. It's supposed to be chill and relaxing and comfy and cozy and laid back, and I still want to explore. That's a lot of the content, is picking things up and the voice lines. And you know, if you just rush through everything, you're not really gonna get a whole lot out of it. You're gonna get the main stuff, obviously, but it's always nice to get as much context as you can, because there's only so much going on half the time anyway, that it's like, oh, you know, may as well. And since I played this before, it's like, well, I'll try to treat it as a first playthrough again. I want to do like a thorough, you know, hey, I don't have to get everything, but just let me, you know, do most of whatever it is that I got to do that's in front of me. That's all I want to do. I knew there's going to be a beginning, middle, and end. It's not a long game. I think it took me like 10 hours. But that's because I already knew what I was doing ahead of time, because I've not only played this before, but games like it. Yeah, it was just constant frustration. Like, you're walking, all of a sudden you're leading into a cutscene. It's just very intrusive, and interruptions constantly. It's like, oh, 1 minute I have control of the camera looking around, 1 minute I don't. They're so slow. Sometimes they're walking most of the time. Randomly they'll start running. I'm just so used to games like where you can do whatever, go wherever, you can backtrack, you can go back, you can take your time, you can pace yourself, and try to explore things to the best of your what before triggering the next thing, and then you're locked out of going back. Or and it ruins it when it's not a big deal to me, but when you try to do everything so much, and then, oh, there's this one thing that I just couldn't get, and I can't go back, can't reload, whatever. And then it's like I just did all that for nothing. Versus, and especially when you already have an idea of the game, when you've replayed it, like, hey, maybe I should go in, and just gamer instinct, maybe I should go here before I go there so I can get this before I do that. But it was pretty much that the entire game. But oh, they have cutscenes to make up for it, and it was just frustrating. It wasn't chill and laid back. It was just agitating. And like, yeah, the game looked really nice, you know, cool. I've seen it all before. Nothing really amazes me. Like, if it's a modern new game, looks fine, it looks great. Look around for a minute, appreciate it, the eye candy. There's a lot of other good games like it out there. I mean, that's what you're mostly paying for, is this graphical overhaul. And when it was nighttime, the being as bright as it was, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. Once it was dark, and it was fine. It was just frustrating because, like, I have a way of doing things. I have a way I like to play games, no matter what it is. And if it's generally looked at as something similar to what I've played before, and I see it in this certain way, and I don't know, all these games frustrate me one way or another. I almost wish, because it's so on rails, I almost wish they didn't let you have control over it at all, because it just make for, you keep getting stuck on stuff. Sometimes I'd have like a drift where my character would just keep walking alongside a fence, not looking the way I want them to. It was just, it felt kind of janky. It felt like there's some glitches too, like he'd be holding a lantern and the lantern's just gone, it's just a flame. I don't know. I think it's one of those examples where they try so hard to kind of make it look so good to where that's the very thing hurting the game, is by making it perform less. I went through all the settings, I did what I wanted to do. But this game was just like a really expensive I don't know, it just felt off. It felt weird, and that's how a lot of these newer versions of games can feel like. It's one thing if you get a next gen version of a game and it's just literally an upgrade or but this was like a whole kind of like making little tweaks here and there. It wasn't as simple as like, oh, it's the same game but just looks better. Usually that turns out to go pretty well. And yeah, on the other hand, it can almost make things worse because it looks so much better and you have these standards and these like expectations but it'll still feel and play like an old game. You can put a whole new, brand new, polished look on it, but that doesn't really change anything. So you don't really win either way. You want to appreciate that there's still games out there that are being updated enough to play in a more modern sense with that matches the technology and is more native to what kind of hardware you have. And oh boy, I keep trying to give it a chance and I just keep thinking that it's the illusion of like, oh, things are different and they're gonna be better, and they're really not, which is fine. Cutscenes are good.
Oh my god, I can't believe you actually did this. Shh.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally most of the changes right there. I was debating on how to even do this because it's not much has changed. But I was like, hey, you know what? It's still a standalone. Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you call this a reboot? The only way I can describe the game is 2024, because that's the only thing that separates it from the other game. It's not. They're not really labeling it as. It's kind of nice when they, like on the cover of the game or there's somewhere where they're like, hey, this is what we define it as, and it's. I don't know. But it's a good enough game, and the movie's coming out soon. I was like, well, why not? Yeah, I mean, it is a superior version of the game. Like, the face models look better, the graphics are better, there's more to look at, there's more to appreciate. And these games are really good at pushing those boundaries on looking as good as they do, because that's all that they really can do. There's not much gameplay, really, right? So, like, there's definitely some upsides. It's just... I want to know who was asking for a brand new version of Until Dawn. Like, the last game was fine where it was. It wasn't really dated, or it definitely doesn't hurt to have gotten this, and it deserved that treatment. It looks as good as the Quarry and the latest Dark Anthology, and I just don't think it was necessary. But yet, here I am. I got it and played it and stored it and bothered at all, but yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I got it. Like, I knew it was going to be a short game. I wasn't going to have to make too much of a long investment. And you really can't go wrong with these games. They are kind of my weakness because they're the only things I can take a break from, like an open world game, a big giant long 100-hour game with something not too short and sweet that's just kind of a passive thing to play at some point in time. It's something I knew was going to be solid. I was excited that first day, but then I got on the second day, and because I cut it up because I was playing other stuff beforehand. It was, I don't know, I just was not feeling it. And yeah, I was like tired and hungry or whatever, but everything kept frustrating me. I cannot call it like a smooth experience at all, where you're just going through the hoops, you're getting it done, you're making progress. Just like every single step felt like such a pain in the butt. And that was unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way. If someone likes this game enough and they're a fan enough, they're not really gonna care. They're gonna look past those things, but I have to look at it from so many different angles and perspectives, and as a non-biased fan, but still just enough of a fan to... I wanted to play it. I like horror. I like these type of games enough to play them, but that's about it. I don't look too deep into the story or... And I'm a sucker for like teenage horror movies. Like, I just watched one recently that reminded me a lot of this when I replayed a little bit of it. For the footage, the clip. But it's the whole, like, you know, a bunch of really shitty ass kids who are doing stupid shit. They're really cringy. They're bullies. They pick on, you know, this helpless, defenseless, vulnerable girl. It's very cliche and tropey and stereotypical, but that's what makes it good. You know, and even as nice as these people pretend to be, they're assholes, they're really mean, they're rude, they're disrespectful. And yeah, I have my favorites. I like Hayden. I have my non-favorites. Emily, they're pretty much all bad. Even if they're funny, even if they have a good side to them, you see that. But they're really terrible people. And it's funny too, because I'm like, is this normal? Like, I've hung out with jocks before and girls that were way too hot for me, but I've also had a lot of good friends too who are just never really like that at all. I mean, maybe hints of it here and there, but nothing like this extreme. Or is this typical? I'm just curious, like, who the hell has friends like that? And to be fair, the whole intro, the beginning, like replaying this again in this new light, I don't know. It was all it's too dramatic for me. I'm just not into like the gossip and the shit talking, and it's hard to sit through. It's entertaining, but it's not definitely something I go out of my way for to participate in. But yeah, just people being mean, and to someone who's so sweet and innocent and pure, and I don't feel like Homegirl had to react the way she did. But yeah, it's funny because it's one of those games you want everyone to live, but really you want them all to die because they're such pieces of shit. And that's like the whole point, right? I get it. Like, you still want to root for them, and you could still like them or whatever you want to do, but yeah, it's not looking good. It's weird because the whole premise of these type of games is like keeping everyone alive, but yet you want them to all die at the same time, so you're constantly torn of what to do and the decisions you make and the judgment and choices. But also, playing a game like this really tells you about who you are, and especially if other people are watching, and you know, what did this person decide to do, and are they a good person, are they bad? It's so easy to tell just from what they choose to do. There's a wrong choice and there's a good choice. It's literally that simple. Yeah, the gameplay was good. But yeah, definitely wasn't. It's definitely worth the replay, the playthrough. There's a lot of little annoyances, but it wasn't anything that was gonna really stop me from playing. I mean, especially when I'm sitting there, I'm hot. I don't know. I was definitely tempted to just quit, because that's not what I do, but unless it just depends on the game and all that, but it's not a hard game. It's just what made it rough was just playing it. But I guess it also helped when I thought about it too. Like, it's still snowing outside. It's a snow game, so that helped. It's not really like Christmas or, you know, Halloween or anything, but so I don't know, it was cool. Like, it matched. It really felt like you're kind of more in the game because you know that there's snow outside. That's always a plus, I guess, in a weird way. Because games like this, they can cover a lot of ground, Halloween and Christmas, which a lot of horror things are pretty good at doing, but like Christmas horror stuff. Yeah, I think of like hot chocolate and cozy fire and being all warm and snuggly. Yeah, another downside was this isn't something I normally replay because there's no save slots, there's no difficulties. I don't know, like, this was a good excuse to replay this. I haven't done that with anything like Walking Dead and the other super massive games. So it was an interesting. But the issue is this is so story heavy and story driven that I mean, it was predictable. I knew it was gonna happen. It just felt very routine. I don't really like replaying things in the first place, so it didn't really I mean, honestly, about halfway through, I was just kind of waiting for it to be done. Just move on, play something else. But I'm happy it took as long as it did. I did what I wanted to do. I took my time, but not too much time. I wasn't really rushing, but kind of at the same time. It was, I don't know. For how expensive, like, it wasn't like a full price game. And obviously getting it on discount helps, but yeah, I don't know if it's worth that almost full price point. Like, my experience with getting next-gen games, and this is coming from a Sony PlayStation point of view, you know, hey, if you're giving me a free upgrade or $5-10, or hey, you gotta spend 20 to get the whole new game again, just next-gen version of it, that's definitely doable. And this, I don't know. Yeah, they put enough in the game where they kind of made it worth it, but at the same time, especially as a second playthrough, it's obviously a first playthrough's one thing, like, hey, you didn't get to play the last gen version. I don't even really know anything about all PC ports and all that. I'm not even gonna go there, but yeah, it could have been cheaper, but you know, it's tough because they're in the clear because it's not a full price game either. Obviously, it'd be a very different story if that was the case, but yeah. And when I was going through the game again recently, there is like some bonus feature stuff, like interviews and all that with the cast and crew, and which I do like that kind of stuff. I might check it out later, but obviously after the game was over, I was kind of just ready to close it out and play something else. I needed a break from that mentally because, man, I was exhausted. Like, when you play a game that's exerting all your energy because it's just so infuriating playing the damn thing. Like half the time I was trying not to yell and when it's late and stuff, especially, and just keep my cool, keep it together, like, hey, it's fine. But gameplay to me is so big, I don't give a fuck about the story, man. Just let me have some good gameplay. It is a video game to play, to interact with. That's the whole point. You can put some crap story in there and call it what you want, but it's... I don't know. Because the problem with games like this is they're so focused on the story and the cutscenes, which is great and all. I can just sit back, take a break. But you know, the times I actually have to walk around and do anything, it's such a... Oh my god, dude. Fucking grandma, grandpa mode. Like, let's go, man. Let's move. Let's get this shit done. Christ. My tolerance for some games are just... I don't ask for much, you know, and just... For fuck's sake. The totems, I didn't really cover the totems a whole lot, but man, there's so many, and... I don't remember it being that tedious. Like, you're looking for this tiny little sliver, and you have to... move it around in such a certain specific way, and oh my god. And for something that's literally 2 seconds long, it's just, oh cool. I don't go into the menus. I know a homegirl that does. I don't like go look at all the premonitions and the, you know, the interlinking connected pathways and stories, the whole butterfly effect thing. I just don't care enough about that. It's cool, I like the premise, but it's just not interesting enough to hook me and grab me. I'm like, hey, I'm here for Hayden Panettiere, I'm here for Rami Malek, I'm here for the hot girls, the Giga Chads, Cabin in the Woods, Jason, Friday the 13th, blah blah blah. You get all those vibes here. But all the little intricacies and the... I don't care enough. It's literally... I don't know. But, yeah, it's not bad. I recommend it, but I don't. Yeah, it's worth playing, but that's about it. Bare minimum. I don't know whether I'm happy that I played this originally last gen or not, because... I mean, if I played this gen version for the first time, I would have to look at it very differently, because the first experience and I probably wouldn't have minded it. I would have been like, hey, at face value, yeah, it was fine. But it's because of that, taking all that information and you look past the bullshit, and I almost don't like comparing the two because it's really not fair, because they are two separate things. Like, hey, if you want to play the last gen version, go play that. But the problem is this gen version is supposed to be the go-to. I got rid of my last gen version. I don't need it anymore. If I ever replay this for some god-forsaken reason, I'm gonna replay the better, bigger, fancier, more modern, up-to-date version. It just makes sense. But because really I've been through the first game. I don't need to go back and play that. I'm done with it. I've been there, done that. I was alive and around and active during that time, and there you go. Life goes on. But yeah. Until Dawn.